Am I doing the right things with my money? Am I going to be okay? What are the right things to do? Simple as how much should I have in my checking account or savings account? How much income do I need? How much should I be saving? Everyone had these same questions. How do I achieve these goals? So I ended up creating a program called Financial Foundations. And
Mm.
it's 10 items that I found every single person has a question about, is unsure of.
Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the S.H.E podcast. Do I have a really cool and awesome guest for you today? Her name is Shari Rash, and we're going to talk about money. So I'm really excited to dive in. So hi, Shari. Thank you for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
I am excited too. And before we dive in, I'm going to give a introduction around you so people can kind of get behind the scenes of Shari. And then we're going to dive into this I love money conversations. So I'm really excited about today. Shari Rash is the founder of GWA Wealth, a virtual financial advisory firm that helps millennial and Gen X families address financial challenges and questions in a fun, comfortable, no nonsense way. I love fun. So I think this is awesome. She is a financial advisor, the host of Money Chic podcast. So make sure you check out the Money Chic podcast. And we're going to talk more about that in this episode. And author of Insider Secrets About Women and Money. Over her 17-year career, she has seen how the lack of financial education and communication about money has negatively affected her generation. She is working to undo the taboo about money. She's a mom of four, 5, including her golden doodle, Flash Rash, love that name, loves grand millennial decor, and spends way too much time in her minivan driving her kids to their many activities. I can relate. Shari, my kids are finishing school today, and we talked a little bit about this behind the scenes, and I'm so excited because you just mentioned you drive your kids in the minivan all over. I spend 3.5 hours a day, if not 4 hours, for drop off and pickup. So I think I'm more excited about summer than they are because I get my 4 hours back.
That it's so much time. And as much as you say, well, I'm going to listen to podcasts and be productive. And no, it's just I'm listening to my podcast about Bravo and, not being productive at all. And it's so much time in a car because, as a business owner, you have to track your miles. And I just saw my spreadsheet for the year, and I started off the year with like my minivan is like, so she's getting long in the tooth, but she has like 104,000 miles. And now I'm up to almost 112 just from January to now. Like
Wow.
the driving, the activities, it's real. It's crazy. And yes.
Yeah. The struggle is real. And I tried the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to be productive and I'm going to listen to this course that I purchased or program that and I'm going to listen to the module or podcast, like you said. And it's just like, yeah, half the time I'm like, I just need a break. You need a mental
Right.
break. So let's dive in because I'm really excited. I love talking about money. I think it's a really important issue or topic, not issue, but topic. It could be an issue too, but topic that, I think women need to be more present around if you're not already. And I know when I'm a divorced mom, a single mom, and the finances, I kind of like, kind of turn a blind eye to that. So money is now, since I'm the breadwinner and trying, keeping it all together with my business and our home. I think I'm really excited to learn more from you around this. So can you share, this is a question I ask everybody that we kick the podcast episode off on, is when you being in a financial advisor and helping people helping people by releasing the taboo around money and making it fun, and no nonsense. Is this something that you navigated yourself, so now you help people, or is this a passion that you've always had, so you dove into learning it and now you help other people with it?
It's always been a passion. So I think I'm one of the few, I guess, rare financial advisors that actually graduated college wanting to be a financial advisor. Many people get into the industry kind of by accident or meeting someone. So I did graduate with this goal in mind. So I've always gravitated towards it. I've always been interested in money. I love talking about money, and it's not in a how much do you have type of way. It's how it makes you feel type of way. I love talking about the emotional impact money has on us and all of that. So really more of a touchy feely type of conversation about money versus like a quantitative. conversation. But yeah, I've always just had an interest in it just from growing up. My parents, my dad would talk to me about stocks. And so that was like normal dinner table conversation. And I guess it all just like went into my brain and stayed there till it was like, all right, well, what am I going to do when I grow up? I guess I'm going to be a financial advisor. That makes sense.
It's awesome. And I love that you have such a passion around it. So what would you say, because many of our audience is female entrepreneurs, and I want to touch on the subject of children, and I'm going to come back to that because my son and I had a conversation. This is like perfect timing. My son and I had a conversation without me even realizing that you and I are going to have this conversation today around money this morning. So I want to talk about, like parents and children, if that's okay with you. But before we do that, when it comes to entrepreneurship, because you run a business, first of all, let's dive into your biggest challenge. And then I want to support women on navigating money inside of their business. So what was your biggest challenge when you first started your business?
My biggest challenge was my life at that point in time. I've always been in financial services. I haven't always been an advisor. So when I graduated college, I did get my licenses to be an advisor, and I said, I'm an advisor now. And then, much to my shock, no one was giving their life savings to a 22-year-old fresh out of college. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. So I hit the pavement. I talked to a lot of people, and then it was kind of just like, well, I do need to make money. I do need a career. This isn't working for me right now. So I went into another side of financial services where I actually worked for product companies, and I represented products, investments, and worked with advisors. So it was still a way that I was in the business, and I got to see kind of behind the curtain of how advisors run their practices, decide on investments for their clients, and all of that. And then after doing that for 15 years, traveled the country, thousands of miles on the road, all of that good stuff. I decided, you know what, I still had that entrepreneurial bug in me, because once you have it, you can't shake it. So I said, you know what, it's time now to start my business. And I started my official business in October. I started Greenway Wealth Advisory in October of 2019. I had twins, my third and fourth children, born in August of 2019.
Wow.
So I had 2-month-old twins, and I was starting my business. So that was probably the challenging part. Now looking back and I think about that timeline, I don't even realize how crazy that is. But yes, that was the initial challenge. Now it's just, I have so many ideas and so many things I want to get out there, and so many different ways I want to help people, and between podcasts and books and that it's almost like there's not enough time in the day. That's my challenge now.
Okay. I love that you had started it when you had twins. Cause when I started my business, my why was I wanted to be home with my kids. And you were able to, you work from home, correct? Am I correct in that?
Correct. Yes.
So that was beautiful that you could be home with them. Yes, they're infant, like 2 months old. That is crazy. That is wild. But it's also like, inspiring, because a lot of women, we're driven by our children, and they're our biggest why. So when you started your business, you had your challenges there, but you also the pandemic hit, right? Correct? At that time as well. So how did that affect you? Or did it affect you in a positive way, or was it another, like a shakeup or is it like perfect timing for you? Like, pandemic's never perfect timing, but you know what I'm getting at.
It actually affected me in a super positive way, because at that time, a advisor was retiring, and he's allowed me to continue the care of his clients. So he was transitioning his clients to me for me to now be their main point of contact. And this was all happening in February of 2020. And then the pandemic hit in March, and I had a laundry list of clients that I had to meet. So my intention was, I'm driving, all over God's green earth to see these clients and have kitchen table meetings and all of that, which was fine. I was prepared for it. And then the pandemic happened. Now, but what was good about it was that, one, it forced everyone who was used to the kitchen table talks and all of that to get used to Zoom, because that was the main way that we were communicating with our loved ones for a long time. So now I was communicating with clients via Zoom, and it's a lot more efficient. We talk about all the time we spend in our cars. I could end up seeing 4 or 5 different clients in a day, where before, if I was driving around, I may have only been able to see 2 at the most. So that helped create efficiencies, see as many people as I could. But then it also was like, hey, this is really awesome, because it's uncomfortable enough talking about money, fighting traffic, going to an office to meet with an advisor and what have you. I can meet with my advisor in my pajamas after work, eating my lunch. It just took the stress out of it. So I, after about a year, and things were slowing down where I lived as far as the pandemic goes, and I sent out a survey and I said, does this work for you, the virtual thing? Do you like it, or do you want to go back to the kitchen table meetings? And 99 out of 100 said, let's go with the virtual. This works for us. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be a virtual advisor, because then there's no restriction on who I can talk to and who I can help. So that changed everything for me.
It's amazing. So let's talk about who you can help and how you help them. So say somebody's listening and they're like, I could use some advising in my financial world with my money. What does it look like to work with you? So what, like from A to Z, like what's the process you move people through, and how exactly would you help us?
Yeah. So because I meet with so many people at different phases of life. So a lot of the clients that transitioned to me from the advisor that was retiring, they were also retired, right? So I got really comfortable working with folks that were retired or close to retiring. So that's a big life transition, right? But then I also realized I want to work with people like me that are in the thick of it. I say, now we're actually adulting. It feels like we're adulting now. These kids aren't going anywhere. They're actually ours. We got to figure out what to do with them and all of that. And we have, our jobs, and we have money, but we need to figure out what to do. But that's also a transition. So I liked working with almost like the bookends, starting our adult life and then those that are transitioning into retirement. And what I found is that even though it's 2 very different ages, experiences and questions are the same. Am I doing the right things with my money? Am I going to be okay? What are the right things to do? Simple as, how much should I have in my checking account or savings account? How much income do I need? How much should I be saving? Everyone had these same questions. I have these goals. How do I achieve these goals? So I ended up creating a program called Financial Foundations, and it's 10 items that I found every single person has a question about, is unsure of. Yes, we could Google it, but Google just gives us the canned answer. We need someone to translate that into our language or make it specific for us. And that's what I do, is I take these principles, these 10 foundational financial principles, and I then apply it to your life. So whether you're just starting out or you're getting ready for retirement, I help you with that. So it's very much advice based. What's going on? What are your hopes and dreams and goals or fears? How do you feel about money? How do you think you've done so far? And really just getting to know each other. So it's very much hand holding through this process. And it's about a 3-month process that it takes to get through these 10 principles. And then it really just creates confidence. So then we can go on and make some bigger decisions.
Wow. So say somebody's a new entrepreneur, like they're just getting started with your business. What is like the number one piece of advice that you would give them as far as like setting themselves up for financial success? Is there yes. one thing that you could say, this is what you really need to focus on right now?
Yes. So, and I do this exact same thing with entrepreneurs as well. I have clients where I do this program where we go through and I'm holding their hand through every financial decision they're making. So the biggest piece of advice is you need to have a plan for the money that's coming in. So when you have money coming in, it just can't leave as quickly as it comes in, or you can't just, okay, great, I got to write this bill or I got to pay this person. You have a plan for it. So a portion of it needs to be set aside in a profit account. And that could be 5% of whatever revenue comes in, and or however much, but set a portion of it aside. And that's for two reasons: to pay yourself or to reduce debt, business debt. So that's the only time you use that money. And then you need to understand where it's going. So having a plan for every dollar that's coming in, and then have a plan for it to go out.
Oh, that's wow. Okay, that's really great. So for many people, they think, money comes in, let's just pay down debt, like throw it all into debt. Is I'm what I'm understanding you say, like putting a certain percentage to paying yourself or to paying down debt. That's not the best strategy.
Well, paying down debt's important, but we don't want to kind of cut off our nose to spite our face. We don't want to have, if we have money come in and then we just send it all away. Well, what if we enter a dry spell and then the debt continues to pile up, right? Because we're not able to pay the bills that are coming in. So always having a portion to pay the debt, but also having a portion, no matter what, at all times to go to profit. So then that way you can say, hey, I build up this profit account. It now has X amount of dollars. I can do a big lump sum towards that debt that's been nagging at me, right? But having more kind of control over the money going out versus just being reactionary. Yes, money's going in, it's getting rid of debt. But if it turns out then we have a dry spell, like I said, like you're then just building up more debt because you're not able to pay the monthly bill or what have you that's coming in.
And it becomes a vicious cycle.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So breaking the cycle.
Yeah, that's such a good advice. So let's talk about, I'm going to ask you how we work with you and how we find you. But before we do that, I want to hear more about your podcast. So can you, Money Chic, I love the name. And can you tell us more about what you talk about on your podcast, on your show?
Yeah. So Money Chic is about 3 years old now. I started this as just when I was virtual and a way to stay in front of my clients. So a way for them to hear my voice without and feel like they're talking to me without necessarily talking to me. So that was originally the intention of it, was just a way for me to, touch base with my clients. And then if more people learned about me, great. And then it kind of just started to evolve from there. And you were a guest on my podcast a few weeks ago, which was awesome. And I'm having more and more women on my show that have a unique message that everyone can learn a lesson from each other. So just having a conversation just like this, but obviously it being about money. Yesterday I had a guest on my show that we kind of talked about how we're both a bit of spenders and some of the tricks we do to kind of curb our spending, whether it's I say, if you go to the store and you spent way more than you expected, keep your stuff in your trunk for a day or two. And if you don't think about it, just drive back to Target, for example, and return it because you really didn't need it to begin with. She talks about how she, puts her credit card, it recommends her clients to put her credit card in a Ziploc baggie with water and freeze it. So it's just fun, relatable.
Wow, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
so
you can't just go get that credit card.
Use it.
Just don't memorize
the number.
You need don't memorize the credit card.
That's right.
That's right. That's awesome.
Yes. So it's just very real conversations, money topics, and relatable. So that's Money Chic, and Chic stands for confident, healthy, informed, and capable. So you need to be all of those things when it comes to your money. And that's what my conversations hopefully help to achieve.
I love that. You make it fun. Confident. What was it? Confident,
healthy, informed, and capable.
Wow. I love that. And it works out to be Money Chic, which is a fun name. And like you said, you keep the money fun. So I love that you are a female financial advisor, because again, the show is be she, be seen, be heard, be empowered. And I love how you empower people. I'm assuming you work with both men and women, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. But you empower people to really take control of their money and be aware. when many of us, just like you said, we can be spending. I remember I used to go to, when my kids were little. It's interesting because now that they're older, Target's not one of the stops, but I used to be at Target like 4 days a week when they were little. It was like the place to be. And you could never go in Target without spending $100. At least I could. I couldn't. Like, it's an easy, as soon as I walked in, I knew, I'm like, this is $100 thing. Even though you went in for one thing, we came out with like 20. So I love
Well,
that
it's
you
like
say,
always the
like,
joke when they say, "Did you find everything you need?" It's like, I didn't come here for any of this. Like,
so true. And I love how you said, like, leave it in the trunk. And if you haven't thought about it, like, send it back. So what are some other saving strategies that you could share with us? Because we have like I said, it's female entrepreneurs, and I'm sure a lot of them are mamas. And we can be in that mode of even just like even online shopping. Like, I'll do the same thing. I'll go and I'm like, I need to do shopping. Then I'll look at my card. I'm like, oh, I can afford a little more. And like throwing stuff in, and then we buy stuff and we get it. And it's like, oh, I really didn't need this.
yeah.
So what are some other tips that would you mind sharing some other strategies?
Sure. I mean, as far as savings go, I'll often, when I'm meeting with new clients, they'll say, okay, I want to start saving. And, typically we just think, okay, well, I'm just going to save $100 a month or $200, whatever it is. And I think they get a little bit frustrated because I go, okay, well, that's great. We're going to get there. But first I want to see where your money's going. And because I could set them up and say, okay, you're going to save $200 a month into this. But if that 200, if they're spending that and they're actually negative, right, in the red as a result of that $200 savings that they're going into each month, I'm actually doing them a disservice. So my first step is, before we start talking about saving, is understanding where your money's going. So looking at, and I always look at everything in 3 months, because a lot can happen in 3 months, and every 3 months, we could go on vacation. We could have a big expense that was unexpected. 3 months is a good chunk of time. 1 month isn't enough. A year is way too overwhelming. So 3 months, look at your spending for 3 months and where is your money going? One, are you seeing any themes? We talked about the kids and the running around. Is it, eating out a lot, or, all the sports? What themes are you seeing with your spending, and identify them? But then also, what is a need? What do we have to spend our money on? And that's where, in my opinion, traditional budgeting fails us, is that we think of needs as necessities, where, yes, that's accurate, but there's also a lot of other things that we need, like Netflix, for example. We need Netflix in my house. That if we didn't have that, all hell would break loose. So we need that in my house. So that's a need. That's not a frivolous expense. Are then some of the other things extra? Yeah. So those are wants. So like I say, Netflix is a need, Hulu's a want, or Disney Plus is a want. That's a want. We could live without that. So what's a need and what's a want? And once you have those identified, now we have to look at what's left over. So if you add up those needs and wants, how much of that is going out? What is going out versus what's coming in? If what's going out versus what's coming in is pretty close to even, we need to make some shifts. You need to make some reductions. And that's, again, having a conversation with yourself of, where can we reduce? I never say cut out that $5 cup of coffee, because that could be the best part of your day, right? So who am I to tell you to get rid of that? But where can there be some reductions? Because we need to save. Everyone needs to save. And ideally, the goal is 20%. When I work with my clients, 20% of your income goes to increasing your net worth, whether that's saving or reducing debt. Reducing debt is just as powerful as saving. Okay. So reducing debt is super important, and we can't forget about that. But again, we don't want to be so aggressive with it that then we don't have any extra money and we're just putting more money on the credit card, right? If we're putting on so much, taking off so much by tackling the credit card, but then we're putting it back on, it's kind of like 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. Mm-hmm. So those are the big things. First is understanding where your money is going, and then having a plan for every dollar. And this is important for entrepreneurs or, not non-entrepreneurs is having a plan for every dollar. So when money comes in, you know exactly where it's going and it's not kind of just like sitting there.
Mm. I like that you say have a plan, know what's going to happen before it happens, right?
Yes.
You're preparing for it. And the more prepared you are, you're opening up the doors for more money flow to come in too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like that you said, like, who are you? You're not going to tell somebody like to take away that $5 a day coffee. Because most people would say like, well, let's cut off that. I don't need it. But at the end of the day, if you're not enjoying it either, like you get to see what that's a priority for you. It could be a priority for one person and not a priority for other. And we get exactly. To like feel good about, I'm a big believer on abundance and the feel, like you said, the feeling, what does it feel like? Cause you talked about that. You mentioned that at the beginning of the episode. It's like of our conversation. It's right. You get to like tap into the feeling of money too, because that's going to allow you to, bring in more money, however that looks like, and open those doors for abundance. And so you have a book that you shared, and I'm guessing that what you shared with us now is probably inside the book, which is Insider Secrets About Women and Money, which I think is really cool because you're a female, financial advisor, and you're helping women in that book. So, how do we get your book, and can you tell us a little bit more about what we can expect to see inside of it?
Yes. So the book is available on Amazon, and I'm actually in the process of writing my second one, which is called Money Chic. So in the book is a lot of this type of conversation of very like basic financial stuff. I mean, I have stacks and stacks of financial books, and it's like, well, I want to read them to see, what my peers are saying. And they're so boring. Like I can't even get through them. And it's like, how do they expect the average person to get through this? So I have a lot of anecdotes. It's very conversational. Everything I do, whether it's my blogs or my podcast, I want it to feel like you're sitting at a table with me and we're girlfriends talking, because that's relatable, right? We don't need to be talked at about money because it's already intimidating enough. It makes us feel a little bit funky because we don't know enough about it and we're raised to say talking about money is taboo. So it's just very conversational. I have my kids in there. I talk about my kids in it and their money personalities and stories about them. So it's I just share all types of just very basic information, but it's foundational. So you'll definitely get something from it. And then so that Insider Secrets About Women and Money is available right now on Amazon. And then my second book, Money Chic, will be coming out in the fall, and that'll be available on Amazon, but then also bookstores as well.
Oh, amazing. Congratulations on
Thank you.
writing your second book. That's exciting. So go grab Shari's book on Amazon and make sure you check out her podcast. And we're going to have all of this information inside of the show notes for this episode. You brought up your kids. Like you have inside the book, it talks about conversations with your kids. And at the beginning, when we started chatting, I wanted to talk to you about, conversations with our children, because this morning in the car, my son and I, on the way to school, his last day, we actually talked about money and his opinion of money. And I really want to create a healthy relationship with money with them. And he mentioned that, rich people, like he sees them as bad. Right. And I want to kind of shift that for him as soon as possible, because I don't want him to have a money block when he's older, thinking that if I have money, I'm bad. Right. Because we can put this connotation or this energy around it, not knowing where it stemmed from. So I'm really glad that I heard that today, because I asked him questions around it. And I shared with him that he came up with money's neutral after we talked about it. And I said, yes. Exactly. I'm like, people are people. Money, because he's like, money makes people bad. I said, no, money is just energy. And money is just neutral, like like he said. And I'm like, it doesn't make someone bad or good. It's what they do with it. That's and right. they're going to either choose to be bad with the money or good with the money. I said, if I handed you $1 million today, Luke, that's his name. Like, if I handed you $1 million today, does that money make you bad? Do you become a bad person because of it? He's like, no. And I'm like, exactly. So yes. How can we open this door to conversations? Because I think, like, I know for us growing up, money doesn't grow on trees, we've heard. Yeah. And then we have this negative view of money or mindset around money that many of us don't even realize we have. So we're living in scarcity versus abundance.
Yes.
Because of how the things that the limiting beliefs that were put on us without knowing it around our family or our parents or people that we were around. So how do we handle that with our children now so we can set them up for success in the future?
First, I have goosebumps. That was such a that is such a good conversation that you had with your son. That's just amazing. And it makes all the long trips to school worth it, right? When you can have conversations like that. But you're so right. Money is neutral. It's a tool. It's to achieve things. Yes. And some people unfortunately get it could be bad. They could do bad things with it, but in general, it's the person, not the thing that they're using money in this case. But I wrote a blog, 7 things not to say to your kids.
Ooh.
And one of them was rich, and which you can find on my website, gwawealth.com. But the word rich, I mean, what does that even mean? Like if you think, oh, well, they have a big house, they have a flashy car, are they rich? Maybe not, like, and rich is so many, you said if I hand you $1 million, that may be a life-changing amount of money to one person and not to someone else, so it's like just removing any of that, I think, is so important. The rich or, people with money are bad or good or, anything. It's just, it is what it is. They are what they are. But I think allowing kids to make decisions about money is super helpful because it empowers them. I have 4-year-old twins. I talk to them about money, obviously in a 4-year-old language. But if we go to the store, every time we go to the store, there's a Barbie doll or a toy or something that Annabelle wants. And instead of saying we can't afford that, or, well, you could say like, hey, this is kind of expensive. Like, mommy thinks that this is a lot of money. But if you really want it, why don't we use your birthday money for it? And then it lets the child decide, yeah, well, mommy thinks that Barbie doll is expensive, but I really want it. I see value in it. I'm going to use my birthday money on it. And if she does or does, who cares? It doesn't matter. She got the Barbie doll. She's happy. She gets that satisfaction of, I made a decision. I used my own money for it. And now I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm probably going to value the Barbie doll a lot more since I used my own money versus mommy's money on it. So that's like a really simple way. If you pay your kid, and I could talk about this forever, allowance.
I was going to ask you about that. Like, is allowance a good idea? So, but I don't want to, like, I know we're going to run out of time here and I want to respect your time, but I would love to hear your input on that. For sure.
I love we could have a whole hour long conversation.
I might have to bring you back. I think we're going to have to do a whole nother thing just on children. Yes. And yeah, yes. I think this is amazing.
But allowance is great. Like, kind of like in a nutshell, because it allows them to make decisions about money. So if you teach them, if you give them money every time they ask for it, they're not valuing it, or they're not thinking about it. Where instead, if you give your kid an allowance, like I give my 13-year-old $13 a week and it goes in her bank account. I give my 10-year-old $10 a week. And we've done every allowance version of, you get paid per chore, I'll give you money when you ask. We've done it. We found this works for us because, one, it kind of builds up a savings account for them without us even thinking about it. It's just an automatic transfer. But then it's, hey, Olivia, can you go take out the trash? Well, you do get an allowance to help out, and you may not see it, but it's there. Let me show you. And part of that is helping out. And, so, hey, like, let's all contribute to the household, the good of the household together. And so that's part of the conversation. But then also, you don't go to Target anymore with your kids. Lululemon, I'm not sure in your household, but Lululemon's a big stop now in our house. And those $60, $70 pairs of shorts add up, where it's, hey, you have your allowance. Do you want to buy that? Same thing with the Barbie doll. But also with the allowance, it can help them. You can teach them to save part, spend part, give, tithe or give back. If, my softball team's having a fundraiser, you can give part of your money to your fundraiser. So again, it gives them more decision making. And I think that's what helps to create a healthy relationship with money, is allowing them to make decisions. So you can say, hey, I can, do awesome stuff with it. Like I can give back, or I can buy the pair of shorts, or, I can go do something fun with my friends. Then it also takes it off of you of like feeling like they nickel and dime you every day for money.
Yeah, and my kids come to me, like my son loves gaming, so he'll want to buy something and he's like, I've got this money. And I'm like, okay, so they already know when they come to me wanting something, they get to have the money available to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because we provide what we provide, and I always want to buy them stuff. At the same time, I love that you shared, like, it's empowering for them to also pay for it. My daughter bought through, some clothes the other day off of 3 different sites, and she said, here, mommy, here's the money. And I'm like, and then I feel guilty taking it, but I'm like, no, she gets to do this. It makes her
Yeah.
feel good, right?
Yes.
And gets her excited. And I think she's going to value the clothing more because she actually
Yes.
paid for it and got excited to buy it. My son, one time on a bus, when he took the bus a few years ago, he was in, I want to say he's 4th, 5th grade, and he had like $10 in his backpack, and he like got off the bus and he came in the car, and he's like, mommy, I just gave the bus driver $10. And I'm like, why? He goes, he works so hard and the bus is so
Oh,
loud that he deserves it. I wish I could give him more, And I was just like, oh, and so he
that's
had the
awesome.
money and he got to choose what to do with it. And so yes, I totally agree. It's very empowering. And I think we
Yeah.
need to allow our children to do that.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. And I know we need to wrap up, but can you share with us where to find you, how we work with you, all the things of, every spot we can find you. I think you're amazing. And I think for you listening, you need to reach out to Shari, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So we mentioned to learn about me and my firm, you can go to gwawealth.com and you can read my blog. And that's where there's links to my podcast, Money Chic, CHIC. You could also go to moneychic.co, CO, and that's where you can see a little bit more of everything that is Money Chic. And I have different programs where to just enhance financial literacy. So if you just want to get a little bit more financially literate, if you want to do that 10-step program with me of how do I get a solid financial foundation, that's where you can learn about it there. So moneychic.co.
Perfect. And for you mamas out there, make sure you go to our website and grab the 7 things. It's 7 things not to say to your children, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I really love
Yes.
that. I'm going to grab it myself. So
I have so many blogs for moms. I talk about allowance on it. So I have allowance blogs on there because it's what I'm doing every day. So it's like if I'm experiencing it, other people are too, and we can all kind of learn together.
fantastic. Real quick, I'm going to ask you one more question, but before I do, I have another question. What is grand millennial decor? That was in your bio.
So
I'm like, what is that?
so grand millennial, if you kind of look behind me, that is it. So it's like the blue and white. I'm a millennial, so it's pretty much a millennial that enjoys their grandmom's furniture.
Ah, okay.
So
I love
antiques, the blue and white, all of that,
it. Okay. So
that's grand
cool. Thank you for
millennial.
sharing that. Now I'm more wiser now. Don't forget also to grab Shari's book, and it is called The Insider Secrets About Women and Money. Her name is Shari Rash. Please go grab that, go to Amazon, and go check out her podcast too, called Money Chic. You definitely want to tune into that. So my last question for you, Shari, before I let you go, is there any fun fact that you could share about yourself that we wouldn't know by finding you, like seeing your website or seeing you on social or any of those things? Like what's something we'd be surprised?
Yeah. So this is probably my husband's favorite fun fact about me. And so in high school, I was a competitive weightlifter. So I was a power lifter,
You're so
and
tiny.
yeah. And I was state champion a few times over.
Wow.
But yes, I still have one of the trophies. It's like this big, it's ridiculous. But yeah, so that's my fun fact. You would never know that about me until
Would never
we were
guess.
at a party and
If you had like 3 truths or 2 truths and a lie, I would be like, that's a lie.
that's right.
Sherry is so tiny, so you would never expect that from her. That's great. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on your championships.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shari, so much for having this conversation with me today and joining me. I'm very enlightened. I'm excited to go grab the 7 things of not what to say as well as read your blog. And so please go check out Shari. Go to her websites and go listen to her podcast and go grab her book, because she is a powerhouse in the financial space, and she does make it fun, no nonsense, breaks it down to me where it's super simple. And you all know me, simplicity is like my middle name. If the simpler the better, because I couldn't read those books that Shari was talking about earlier, that like they would bore me and put me to sleep. So Shari makes it super simple. She breaks it down for you. So make sure you go check her out and go check out all she has to offer. Thank you, Shari, so much for your time.
Thank
and for
you.
being with me today.
I appreciate it.
And I definitely want to have you back so we can dive deeper into some more conversation.
Love that.
Have a great day. Thank you for joining us for the S.H.E podcast. Go be seen, be heard, and empowered. See you on the next episode.